Welcome back, everyone. I am the Depressed Dior, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 8. Alright, uh, so obvious changes is I now have Christiane in the group. I did do a couple of matches prior to this match. I did a match on Sunday, and unfortunately I lost horribly. That was pretty much the final draw as far as wanting to keep Freya in the group. Unfortunately, Freya isn't that good of a tank compared to the meta. Her SP class made her better stat-wise and gave her a little bit of damage reduction, but all the other meta tanks have better damage reduction and or have some sort of conversions to improve their defenses. Or in the case of Christiane, Christiane has tons of ways to reduce magic damage. And unfortunately, just Freya can't really tank it anymore, and she also doesn't have any built-in self-reses besides taking Redeemers as a soldier troop choice. But since the meta also includes lots of debuffs, Redeemers self-res doesn't work usually. So I finally dropped Freya. I don't intend on taking her back anytime soon. She is going to get her 3C next month, which will give her a better faction buff, which is great for Origins. But at this point, I don't use enough Origins to even warrant consider bringing her back. Anyway, so like I said, I lost the match on Sunday. Essentially, it was a rush box. I also let my opponent have Luna, which is a really bad idea since my primary single target damage is magic. And then I lost a few matches prior to this one today. And as always, I did it at the earliest time slot. And essentially, I ran into a full-fledged rush box that unfortunately, I did get the initiative on. But my Hell Knight came a couple of damage short of actually killing their healer, and since my AoE was hitting their Kyura, all the damage was being undone by her talent. And at that point, it went downhill from there. And then the match after that, I kind of just threw it just to see how much damage Tsubame can do without critting against a Bozel with spears with Stone Colossi. Needless to say, not enough. So just kind of threw that match. For this match, I was a bit annoyed because I was constantly seeing just more and more characters I don't like dealing with. I don't like fighting Bernhardt in most cases. I definitely don't like dealing with Clotaire. This box overall isn't too bad though, and on this map I actually have pretty good control over, what sort of... There's not... For even against a rush box, you generally have ways to bottleneck the opponent to keep them from reaching your squishies in the back. Anyway, the other thing to go ahead and point out, anyone that watched my Thursday summon video, I have been doing summons after that video, and my rate has improved drastically. I'm pretty much below average on the rate that I'm getting SSRs, so it did balance itself out, which was nice. My Christiane is 5 stars, and my Moo is still 4 stars. Also, my Lucretia is still 5 stars. She'll be 6 stars next week, I believe. Anyway, with all that said and done, let's go ahead and dive right in. So I banned their Ares first, as always. They banned my Rose and CL, so I was like, okay, my opponent's probably gonna try to go mass debuffing. They take Hilda, so my opponent was definitely content with going a tank push. So I went ahead and went after some of their primary debuffers. Obviously, some concerns I have is the Kyura, but I'm kind of more or less used to fighting Kyura. She is definitely very dangerous, but she's not as bad as people say she was, and nowadays people kind of understand the meta. Kyura is not that bad, especially since I use a lot of casters, and casters are generally higher in magic defense. Anyway, I take Hilda. They take out my Kyura, they went straight for my Florentia. So at this point, I'm actually down to 2 healers, so I have to take a healer. I either have to take Liana or I have to take Sissy White. They take Bernhardt as their second character. I go after Clotaire. I essentially went after the rest of their AoE, especially Clotaire, because Clotaire can definitely reach you in a single turn if you allow him to. So I take Sissy White. So Sissy White's act again is a bit different. I have to have 5 coins to make it work, but I'm not. But also the other reason I took Sissy White is she can actually summon a second tank, so I can use that to block the narrow passageways if I need to. Alright, they went after my ranged more of my ranged casters. They take Kyura at this point, which I wasn't too worried about. At this point, I got rid of all their act agains, so their only choice at this point was to take Rose and Seal. I take Marielle. At this point, I needed to make sure I have some sort of guard bypass. I wasn't comfortable using Illustrial on this map because this map doesn't have very much in the form of grasslands, and I wasn't comfortable using Sherry as an assassin. It's just not something I'm used to yet, and I didn't really want at this point. It was approaching 4 a.m., so I definitely wanted a win at this point. All right, so they take Rose and Seal. At this point, I just got rid of Juggler and Tensei Jessica, so essentially 2 cavalry is all they have left, which Hilda can tank easily. Warner's a little bit dangerous, but since I can bottleneck the passageways, his high mobility is not that big of a deal. I take my Helena, mainly because I just wanted to have additional mobility, and something I forget that Helena can do is she can actually run through troops. So, left me with Christiane and Moo. They take their Helena. So I can either go second tank, but since I brought Sissy White, I didn't really need a second tank. So I bring Moo. So this will be my, I believe this will be my second match I ever used Moo in. The previous match, of course, I lost. Alright, so my Sissy White is 6 stars, as mentioned in a previous video. So she gets 2 coins at the start of every turn. I went Angels with Helena, standard attacking. My Moo went Sorceresses, and she has Forest Teleport, which essentially can only teleport to these tiles in the center because that's the only grasslands. I did bring Revitalizing Blessing, but honestly she shouldn't have, to be honest. She really should have brought a different skill, but I didn't even think about it. And then I have Song of Destruction, which is just her primary attack skill. This, unfortunately, the special effect of this, where it can summon Trents, is pretty much nullified because Rose and the Seal's on the map. Honestly, the devs should have made this like summon Trent thing like ignore immunity or something, because having it be completely shut down by Rose and Seal sucks. Sissy White, I brought Mass Attack purely because I have Moo. There's not enough AoE in their force to actually worry about. I mean, Helena has a little bit of AoE, and then Bernhard, of course, has his Sword Dance. Besides that, though, there's not really any AoE to worry about, so I didn't bring Mass Heal, I brought Mass Attack. And that'll make sure that Moo is not completely left out of the mix here. And then I brought her 3C, which of course allows me to do Act Agains and other fancy little buffs. Hilda, I went ahead and brought Crystal Molders, mainly because I was concerned about Kyura just nuking her to the ground, so I might as well deter that a little bit. Besides that, it's just a standard Hilda kit with War Goddess, and then Marielle's standard Marielle with Zealots. As for our opponents, Bernhard, of course, went Sword Dance Rupture 3C. Kyura brought her own Gospel, which is something I keep forgetting. And I think I kept on forgetting in this match. I kept assuming my opponent brought both guard bypasses, but she only brought Star Slash. Hilda actually brought Templar Knights. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. Hilda did bring Dominating Formation, because obviously she doesn't need to bring a faction buff because Bernhard exists. And then we got Helena, standard Helena with Angels, and then we got Rose and Seal, who's all heals. So Bernhard's buffing everybody except Kyura, who's buffing herself. And you can already see the coverage from Kyura. At this point, I always assume Kyura has the range extending staff. And since I was comfortable about summoning a second tank, I had no reason to hold back here. So yeah, I just go in here, summon Mercenary Lancer, and then I move in with Lance Phalanx. So there you go, block the hole here. Now Helena can actually get through this because she can actually run through troops, a fact I tend to forget very often. So essentially I'm kind of getting set up here. Now at this point, my goal was to get the initiative on my opponent. My only guard bypass is Marielle, and she can only guard bypass once. So if I'm going to do it, I need to do it early. And I have Moo. I have a teleport. I can teleport to any of these these grassland tiles. And from there, I can easily go after Bernhardt and take him out after it gets guarded once. So that's my plan. And I was actually comfortable getting... This puts me in range of Kyura, but I have... I'm at full health with Holy Troops. And of course I have her Conviction, or whatever you call it, which reduces damage taken. What I didn't expect was the Pale Staff, and what I definitely did not expect was the Pale Staff, out of all the random debuffs that it applied Silence, which completely... I can't do anything. I can't actually do anything about this now. I could try attacking, but more than likely I would die at this point because my troops are very weakened. And so yeah, this pissed me off so much. I was already tilted a little bit from the previous matches, and getting just out of all the debuffs, Silence, it pissed me off quite a bit. So I just fell back. I couldn't do anything. At this point, I thought Kyura was going to follow up with another guard bypass and kill. What I didn't realize, of course, is she doesn't have a second guard bypass. So I was actually completely safe. Like, I was basing everything off of Kyura, and I didn't realize she didn't have the second guard bypass skill. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to fall back. And this is where I forgot about what Helena can do, which is run through troops. So definitely takes some. Yeah, the troop. I didn't expect the summon to survive. Due to Sissy White's 3C, anytime her summon gets killed, she gets refunded 1 coin, which is helpful. So as you can see, I'm getting hit with a bunch of AoEs. One thing I'm a little curious about. Yeah, why she could have went straight for Sissy White. Now, I don't think she would have gotten kill on Sissy White. She might have, actually. Yeah, she probably would have gotten kill on Sissy White. So I don't know why she went after Moo instead. Yeah, that was kind of confusing. Oh well, see that poor guard get killed again. Now the good news is, we don't need to worry about any additional AoEs from Helena besides her passive. But we are definitely in the mix here. So I was definitely concerned about keeping Marielle alive. Alright, and then at this point I was like, alright, well, let's clear out some of this terrain. Get rid of some of the act again prevention here. So I rushed in with what I had. Wasn't enough to kill. Yeah, and like I said, I'm basing everything off of Kyura having a second attack to mess around with. And I was like, well, I mean, if I have to throw away a troop, that's fine. So I have a guard range, I have the range extending staff, the Scepter of Divinity, on Moo here. And unfortunately, Chivalry made it so she was completely immune to all debuffs, so I couldn't get the extra Trent, but I just had to make sure that Helena died, so I didn't have to deal with her. So the good news is that means that Kyura's stats have dropped, and now her mobility has also been reduced. So at this point, I'm actually in the lead, surprisingly. Of course, my opponent's rushing to take the center here. Alright, Sword Dance. And then Ruptures. Yep. So I fall back because I had, you know, heal negation and all that nonsense. Helena is, of course, immune because of Chivalry, and then Hilda is immune because of her accessory. So I was like, you know what? Let's see if we can soften up Bernhardt. And boy, did that not work. Like, that was... I mean... What's his... Yeah, dispels one before being forced into battle through melee, dispels 1 debuff. Oh, and reduces defense, though I don't know if that actually works. And then, of course, his aura. Yeah, all reduce attack and defense. Increase damage dealt. Yeah, I was like, I just threw away my unit here. I didn't. Bernhardt's just so ridiculous. And he attacks rather quickly. So I just kind of... So it's 4-4 now. And my only reliable DPS is Marielle. And now my opponent's going all in with blasting my Hilda. Lost a life because of it. But the good news is Bernhardt's AoE has been used. And Karyura can't really move very far. God, that damage. Alright. Now also, when I did my 3C, I made sure to switch to Cav form, else I would have already been dead. Now the key thing here is my Force Teleport is now off cooldown. So I had some plans here. I moved Marielle first to get some healing, which I desperately needed to survive that attack. Fast turn to go ahead and regen some more health. I did get a Tenyo heal over time, which helped a lot. And now my Marielle's faction buff is worn off, so I went ahead and applied the 3C at this point, which gives you an act again. Gives plus 10% damage dealt, plus 30% attack and defense. Usually this lasts only 1 turn, but since I have the teddy bear equipped to Sissy White, it lasts 2 turns. I went ahead and grabbed cavalry. To be honest, I should have went infantry and just focused on getting rid of debuffs or getting rid of buffs with a roar, but I didn't think that far. Because there's no way I'm going to be able to apply the debuff for the Cav because Rosen CL's Crystal Barrier. So at this point, Force Teleport. Dispel a bunch of stuff. Dispel more stuff with Mjolnir. And that's with 50% damage reduce on my attack. I'll get my act again. Demon troops are just melt because I'm all holy all the time. And then I dispel more buffs. So killing Bernhardt was very, very important for multiple reasons. But first, Star Slash is going to go on cooldown. I'm at full hit points. Sissy White tanked it. My Sissy White does have a Steel enchant. So she actually has an additional 10% damage reduction. I did it purely for the extra HP and just to be able to tank hits better. But even without a faction buff, I had maxed out. I had full hit point Forest Priest, which of course had increased stats, and so I was able to just kind of tank everything. Anyway, killing Bernhardt was kind of key. Obviously, he was a big threat against Helda, but the key thing was he was the faction buffer. So Hilda doesn't have faction buff, neither does Rosen CL, and Karyura only has Gospel. So with that, I kind of have... I can breathe a little bit easier, but I'm still kind of racing against the clock here. You can see the mist is closing in. I have to deal with Hilda twice, because she can self-res. So I need to make something happen here. So, mass attack to get Mu up and running. Yeah. So, dominating formation. I forgot that she actually did this, so I'm going to do a dumb move later on here. Since Bernhardt's dead, I went ahead and just stayed in spear form, because I don't need Cav anymore. Alright, getting Gospel buff up. You may see that Power of Vines is proccing because they're in grasslands. One other thing to note, since Mariel is in grasslands, she's actually getting a plus 8% attack buff from Moo here. So I attacked first with the Cav to proc the Bloody Revenge. That way crits are now possible. It also forced Rosenseal to take an action at this point. So here I learned my opponent has Aeolus Mail, or whatever it's called, which gives a chance to reduce range damage. And at this point I'm just kind of just dispelling buffs and doing as much damage as I can. Unfortunately I wasn't able to get a kill in yet. So attack again, force the Bloody Revenge to proc. So at this point I'm kind of just waiting on Holy Damnation direct hit. So at this point I was like, oh, I can just do Enduring Faith, act again, and then do my Holy Damnation direct hit, not realizing that I'm right now in a sinkhole. And at this point my opponent is just like, well, I can just stall out because the mist is coming in. So I do Enduring Faith, and that's it, because I can't act again on this terrain. Really, really annoying. So at this point I summon Infantry. And use that as an opportunity to do Roar, dispel some buffs. Do a whole 20 damage. Alright, turn 8. So, as you can see, I'm running out of time. There's only one open space. So I move in. Again, proc the Bloody Revenge. And now I'm in Grassland, so I actually get some benefits for that. I can passive heal now. Since my opponent has Spear Troops, I was like, alright, well I might as well attack and get rid of those troops. Mass Crystal Healing. Alright. Now I do my 3C, dispel all the buffs. And critical hit. 1 life down. And at this point, I have an act again. The only person I can act again is actually Moo. Originally, I was thinking about doing Mariel again, not thinking about Sinkhole here, which would have been a wasted turn. So I was like, all right, well, let's do Desperate Measures. Get a bunch of increased stats. Do my 3C, and Windwall procs. If Windwall hadn't proc, this would have been a kill. Hands down. Yeah. If Windwall hadn't procced, it would have killed. At this point, I was like, oh shit, did I just throw this match? Because I kept thinking I could actually, you know, act again Mariel, but I couldn't. So at this point, I just attack. I have no buffs, but it was enough. Yeah, so one thing to note here, when you have 2 or more buffs, all damage taken is reduced by 25%, and then of course attack 15% of attack is added to defense and magic defense. She has 2 buffs, and I dispelled one of them. So she actually loses defense and damage reduction when I made that attack. Yeah. So I've got dispelled any buffs that remained. I get attacked with Star Slash. It's not going to kill. I was at full hit points. Lose here. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I move in, attack in melee. And at this point, Kyura has no buffs. So I go ahead and use this opportunity to go ahead and finish Kyura. And I do mass attack to go ahead and just top her off. Yeah, okay. So all that's left is Risen Seal. And all I need to do is kill her. And I have plenty of rounds to do it. So, faction buff, move down. The moving down is important because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to teleport to that other grasslands tile. So I can actually attack in range. And then she's going to pass her turn. All of her buffs are going to go down. I'm going to break any sort of holy defense she had. And then finish things up. So yeah, one with a 4-star move. I was really happy about that. Definitely made some mistakes in this match. Obviously throwing away my Helena was not ideal. If I hadn't thrown her away so early, I think I could have definitely had an easier time, because I could have just then kind of just spammed. Well, it would have just put more pressure on them. That was about all it would have done, because the debuffs wouldn't happen because of the crystal barriers. But yeah, obviously Marielle did most of the work because she got most of the primary kills, killing the tank, killing Bernhardt, but Mu was able to kind of clean up towards the end. I was a bit concerned because obviously Mu's intelligence stat isn't particularly high compared to my usual casters, but she actually did it. So, and this is also a match where I actually got to use Sissy White's abilities. The previous match where I won with her, I didn't really do much with her. So I got to play around with the summons and all that, so it was a pretty good experience overall. Besides that, the only other thing I didn't really talk about as far as Christiane is concerned, she is 5 stars now. I think originally on my video I had her have Thorns enchants, but in hindsight, since most usually use Thorns in response to deal with like high damage magic attackers, but since she reduces magic damage so much, and I kind of went off of some of seeing what other people's builds were. I actually have swapped her over to Steel Enchant. So her chants are kind of all over the place because I had to obviously gamble again. But the Steel Enchant will hopefully make her tankier because she'll have just an overall 10% damage reduction. Besides that, this was also the first week of the season where we have Covenants. My Covenant right now is level 20. And you do get these bonuses in PvP. So then my focus on the routes are just to increase my stats. You can actually increase the stats of the Covenant himself, but he's only usable in PvE, so I don't really care much for him. He's actually kind of useful because he's kind of like an extra body and an extra bit of AoE damage. But my primary focus, of course, is to get to these little notes here. Like this one gives +9 intelligence, this one gets +12. Some pretty cool stuff. I do like the Covenant Secret Realm. I do like it. The way it works is they are in sets of 3, and any units you use in the previous battles cannot be used in the ones after it. So you essentially have to use 15 characters over the course of these 3 matches, which kind of forces you to kind of think ahead about what sort of teams you want to form. Which is a lot of fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Supposedly SP Narm's supposed to be coming soon, but apparently it's not this week. And I think supposedly the roguelike thing is going to be coming out, but I don't know when that's going to be. But I definitely could use the resources because I am getting poor. In any case. Enough rambling from me. I'm the Depressed Viewer. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 8. I'll see you guys later.